Yeah, I'm not walking through a cemetery at night. I have no plans on doing that. I'm not ghost hunting. I'm not looking for things because knowing my luck, it will follow me home. It's funny. And I had a viewer that said, you should kind of check out the cemetery. And if you're watching, hi, I saw your comment. I will never walk through a cemetery or look for ghosts there. And then I thought it would be kind of interesting to go through all of the really ancient superstitions that, especially if you're older, for some reason, you shouldn't do this. And maybe because we're closer to passing over to the other side. So that's one of the ones I'm never going to do. But and then I want to go through like where is this coming from? So the first one is whistling at night. Yeah, for some reason, if you're like me over the age of 50, if you're whistling at night, you're not supposed to do that. That can attract spirits and energy if you believe that. Now, here's where this comes from. In Chinese and Korean traditions, and comment below if you know more about this, apparently wandering ghosts follow those home who are walking along at night whistling. Yeah. I guess this originated from ancient beliefs where the unexplained night sounds were attributed to spirits signaling calamities or creating these stories or whatnot. Hawaiian lore even warns that these night marchers, which reminds me of Game of Thrones, really, right? Night marchers were the ghosts of ancient warriors who might drag the offender away. So, and then in the United Kingdom or the UK, the seven whistlers are mysterious birds or even spirits whose whistles predict tragedy or death, blending, it's like European and Native American kind of beliefs together, really. Islamic cultures, like in Indonesia, associate it with summoning a jinn. And a common thread at night amplifies spiritual vulnerability because you already feel a little kind of creeped out when you're walking along at night, especially if you have a really dark, creepy neighborhood at night. Like your neighborhood could be beautiful during the day, but then at night it looks completely different. And you're like, well, I've got to walk my dog and I just got home from work. Maybe don't whistle. Right? Yeah. I don't know. So that's kind of interesting. So the whole thing about being over the age of 50 and not doing these is the tradition stems from ideas that our elders, yeah, we're the elders, right, have waning or diminishing life energy, making them more susceptible to these spirits following us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great, right? Just another piece of great news for that. Okay, the next thing to be wary of, sleeping with your feet facing the door. This belief derives from feng shui, the principles and kind of the culture around death rituals there, where the position mimics how people that are dead and dying or corpses are brought out of buildings and homes. They're brought out feet first. So in feng shui, this is called the death position. And this is believed to allow negative energy, sha qi, or ghosts to pull the soul away during sleep. Here is the wild thing about that. And I've talked about this before, where I had a very real dream where I was in the ocean and there was a dark shadow in the ocean water that I could see pulling on my leg, and it was and I was going to drown. And it was so traumatic, it woke me up. And I kid you not, my feet were facing the door and my leg was up in the door and it was being pulled up towards the door and it was being pulled. Now, I look at that and I think, okay, was that like a version of sleepwalking or sleep talking? Like I was literally acting out what was happening in my dream? Yes, I believe that is a possibility. But I also believe that this world is a fascinating place. And we're even talking about, do we live in a simulation? There's some interesting theories coming out. And so I love to stay open-minded, because how can you be open to new ideas if you're not open-minded? So I do think there is a possibility that maybe there was a negative spirit pulling on my leg and I was dreaming about it. So that happened. So I get it. Don't sleep with your feet facing the door, because yeah, that was literally how I was sleeping. Okay. The next one, you know this one, opening an umbrella indoors. So do you know this myth traces back to ancient Egypt, where umbrellas, or kind of a type of a parasol, shielded the royalty from the harsh sun. And this was seen as, they worship the sun as the god Ra, right? So opening the parasol indoors was an insult to Ra, or the sun god. So this, of course, would invite misfortune or divine wrath, even in ancient Egypt. So, and even in ancient times, non-nobles under an umbrella's shadow risked bad luck, as it was a holy tool. That's really interesting. So, of course, this modern version emerged in Victorian England with metal-spoked umbrellas that were invented, because opening them indoors would pose physical injuries, because the metal back then was not like now, how we have aluminum and whatnot, and they're very lightweight. People would get their eye poked out. Yeah, breaking items, knocking things over when they open an umbrella. So that kind of continued on that theory of please don't open an umbrella indoors. And so, and of course, there's a lot of other myths connected to that, like disrupting auras or, just creating bad luck overall. But isn't that interesting that it derived from ancient Egypt? If that's true, because again, I am not an Egyptologist. If you know more about this, please comment below if this is true, because these are all myths, right? And of course, the next one, walking under ladders. What are your thoughts about that? I try not to walk under a ladder anyway, because it has those little shelves and I don't want a nail or something to bop me in the head. But again, this superstition apparently arrives from ancient Egypt as well, because they would have a ladder leaning against a wall, and this could form a sacred triangle symbolizing the pyramids or the ancient gods. And so you would not walk under it. In Christianity, and again, this is a myth, so I don't know if it's true. This is just lore, that it may have evolved to represent the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, because again, it's creating that triangle when the ladder's against the wall. And so you would not want to walk under that because they said it would allow dark spirits or demons to enter the space. I don't know if that's true, of course. And other people, like in the medieval times, associated with the gallows, because criminals walked under ladders to go basically have the noose put around them. And so it added a death omen. So lots of myths through history passing down about that. I'm going to add that there had to be some safety warnings and karmic risks involved. Like, it's probably never a good idea to walk under a ladder, to be honest, because, they can fall, right? Okay, this one's an interesting one. Don't clip your nails after sunset. I honestly have never heard this one. So I guess this is from more Asian traditions, like the Korean, Japanese, Chinese, warns that cutting nails at night shortens lifespan and can attract deathly spirits. I did not know that. So apparently this myth says bad spirits can enter the body via the clippings. Hindu mythology, like deriving from India, links it to the moon's energy, where clipping your nails at night disrupts healing forces. Wow. Modern rituals even use nail clippings intentionally to summon spirits and ghosts. Again, that sounds like a little bit of witchcraft to me, so I'm not familiar with that, of course. That's a wild one, because I have never heard of that superstition. But again, all of these are they say it's more of a risk over the age of 50, because like I said, if our energy's diminishing and we're sad about a loss of a loved one, or we've lived a long life, we've had a lot of trauma, are we more at risk for dark entities to attach to us? It's an interesting thing to think about. I'm not saying any of this is true. It's just something to ponder, something to debate, something to say, yeah, I think this might have some truth to it. Very interesting, right? Yeah. Comment below what you think of this. I know it's a little out there, but it's the fall now, and we're about to enter the real spooky season. So these things are interesting. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next one.